G'day, friends. Miloa here. Today I am with a really great friend of mine, Jay Olsen. She is the author of Whispering Pass. Welcome, Jay. Please take a moment to introduce yourself to the audience and tell us about your book.
Hey everybody, my name is Jay. I am the author of The Whispering Pass. It is the first in an epic fantasy trilogy where magic is returning to the world after being gone for thousands of years.
Great. So, what sparked this idea of Tales of the Whispering Pass?
So the idea actually came to me at this point it would have been I think 18 years ago um, when I was playing Lord of the Rings online. In that game, I have a character. Her name is Mune. She was the first character I ever created when I was playing the game. And going through the game, leveling up, going through all the different group instances and stuff, I really felt drawn to tell her story. So I would actually write fan fiction of my character in Middle Earth, and I would post it to the forums of my guild website. Which my dad ran the guild, and so he created a separate little forum area for me to post those stories to, and that's really where it all started. Is as Lord of the Rings fan fiction that kind of branched out and became its own thing over time as I actually fleshed out those stories, started coming up with the other characters involved. And so it went from being a story in Middle Earth to being a story in a new world called Daria.
Nice. So, what was the most difficult scene that you had to write and why?
Question. All of them? No, not really. Probably the intro scene. So all of like the beginning chapters, because that's where, you have to set the stage, get all the important information across while also not dragging your feet and, getting to the heart of the story. So that to me has always been one of the hardest things to do is actually write the beginnings of the story. So that's probably where I spent most of my time. I've rewritten the first three chapters where we meet each of the three main characters so many times over the past 18 years. So they have definitely gone through the ringer. And I'd probably say those have been the most difficult.
So Daria is a rich and divided world. How do you go about creating the cultures of the world, and what are those cultures?
Oh boy, there are so many. Which I actually do have some of this information available on my website as a little mini wiki page for the world. But I draw a lot of my inspiration again from Tolkien's works, and then also another big one for me is the Forgotten Realms campaign setting for Dungeons and Dragons. The two things that I grew up playing the most were the games Neverwinter Nights and Lord of the Rings Online. And between the two of them, they offer such rich, diverse worlds and such interesting settings that that's where a lot of my ideas came from originally, were, me adapting those cultures and those races and then taking the elements that I like from them and creating my own. So for example, one of the races that I have in the book, they're called the Barada. They're what I lovingly refer to as swamp orcs, because I knew I wanted to have some kind of a strange orc race in my world, but I didn't want to do what everyone else has done. I didn't want it to be the normal type of orc. I wanted them to be set apart. So instead of them, being like in The Lord of the Rings, how the Uruk-hai are created, by Saruman from the earth, these orcs actually come out of the lakes. They are hatched in the lakes and emerge as small children. So they are not born from reproduction. They come into the world already fully fledged as children. And they worship the lakes and the sea as their mothers and their father. So it's a much different take than I've seen previously with orcs in other, fantasy stories. And so I just love shopping around and again, just seeing what's out there and seeing, oh, hey, that sounds really cool. And then seeing how I can kind of adapt it and make it its own unique thing.
Cool. What tell us more about the lost ruins of Karazhan. How did you imagine its history?
So that's a loaded question that has spoilers in it that I can't give the full answer to. But what I did when I was creating this world was I said I wanted to tell a story within a certain generation. And the series title is Chronicles of the Second Sun. And the Second Sun is the period of time where all these characters live, and it's the second era of this world. And so when I started doing the world building and coming up with kind of like the backstory for not just my characters, but the antagonists, the world itself. I really wanted to kind of structure it and frame it like Tolkien did with the different eras in Middle Earth. So how he has the first age, second age, third age. So the second sun is kind of like the equivalent of like the third age in Middle Earth, where a lot of important things have already happened that have gotten us to this point in time. And we are now in a very pivotal part of this era that will define the era itself and then transition to a new one afterwards. Um, so when I was writing the backstory, I actually would write short stories about what happened in the previous era, which is known as the
Mm-hmm.
Eldest Days. So I actually have a collection of short stories that I wrote in eighth grade, detailing the history of the eldest days from different characters' perspectives and capturing what happened in the world and what led to the world looking like it does in the second sun. Um, so it is all there. It is all wholly fleshed out. But again, for spoiler reasons, I can't get
Mm-hmm.
into the details of it.
Yeah, I found with my own stories that I've written, I always love to dive into the world and just start going at it. But then inevitably I have like, well, how did this come about? And then I go back and I think about, okay, well, this is what happened to get us to where we are today. And that kind of gets to be a spin-off story. So, well, that's exciting. Are you going to be publishing any of those spin-offs?
Oh yeah, I'm sure I will. One thing that I really want to do after the trilogy is done is I want to do a world guide. Because growing up, every time the Scholastic Book Fair would show up at school in the library, I would be there and I'd be checking out like those like Egyptology and dragonology books. And
Mm-hmm.
so I've always loved that kind of like just extra step with immersing yourself into the worlds that you're reading about. And so I want to do one of those for my series because I know that I have the content for it. Like I've come up with so many, ideas. There's so much information about the world that like if I put all of it in the books, they would turn into encyclopedias. So I want to have something separate. That way, when I'm writing the story, the readers can enjoy the story. But then if they want to, know more about the Marauder, know more about, the eldest days and what happened that, over the course of those thousands of years, they can have that in another book form. And that also allows me the opportunity to work with different artists to bring those ideas to life. Because that's another part of this whole thing that was such a joy to work on, and that's why I have the background as it is I love working with different artists to bring the ideas forward, and so I'd
Mm-hmm.
love the opportunity to work with people to make the different landscapes, show portraits of the different races out
Mm-hmm.
there. So yeah, it's coming. I don't know when it's gonna happen, but it definitely is on the list of things to do.
Good. And have you thought about maybe creating a D&D campaign around it?
Yes. Yes. Actually, so I don't know if it's going to happen this year in 2025, but every year there's the free RPG day, which
Mhm.
is an event that game stores, bookstores celebrate. And I know this because my mom owns a bookstore. Shameless plug for the crazy book lady in Ackworth, Georgia. um, but it's an event where the bookstores and game stores, they'll have like freebies for like one shot campaigns where they'll host those games in the store for people to come in and see what tabletop gaming is like and have the opportunity to try it out, and then also get low stakes, super low investment opportunities to try it out. And I really want to write a one shot that goes into some of the backstory for my trilogy and host that. Again, I don't know if I'm gonna have it in time for this year's free RPG day, but if not this year, next year. Because yes, one of the big things with this series and my writing as a whole that I really love and what I want to do with it is have more engagement beyond just reading a book.
Mm.
Because that was one of the biggest appeals to me about Tolkien's works is that it's not just the experience of reading the Lord of the Rings trilogy and The Hobbit, there's all the video games and the movies and the role playing games and
Mhm.
everything about it. So like I would love to have that level of involvement and immersiveness with my series. So yeah, D&D campaign is definitely on the table. I have in the past taken some time to do some preliminary like write-ups and descriptions about like a campaign setting being set in the world of Daria. And I have ideas on like specific adventures that I would want to have a table go through. So yeah, that is definitely on the table for the future as well.
Great. So which character from the Whispering Past do you personally relate to the most and why?
The obvious answer should be Mune since,
Mhm.
she's my baby and she's been around with me for 18 years, pictured here on my right, maybe your left. I don't know how this looks on the other end. But actually it's not Mune. Mune has always been the character that I've admired about fantasy world. So she's my ideal hero in a fantasy story. But the character that I relate to the most is actually going to be one of the other POVs whose name is Ray Finnegan. She's an 18-year-old street urchin who gets wrapped up in a lot of sinister dealings in the Proma city of Aura. And she's only 18. She knows how to sneak around and eavesdrop, but she doesn't know how to do much else in life beyond that. And she gets thrust into this major plot line where her boss, the leader of the gang that she's in, wants to kidnap the princess. And he's putting her in charge of doing that.
Mhm.
And so Ray's storyline over the course of the trilogy is about her growing up, learning what she is capable of, and owning her own strengths. And, knowing that you don't have to be the heroic swashbuckler. You can be who you are and still make your own way in life. So Ray is probably the one that is the inner J. If I was gonna have like a self insert, it would be her. So
Cool. And do you follow any specific rules of magic that you've created during your world building?
um, less is more. In that the book is obviously about magic returning to the world, and so as I've written the trilogy, I try to keep the magic sparse so that when it is used, it's very impactful. I do have my own rule set in place, like to make sure that no character can do anything like too like game breaking or world breaking, um, because that is something that I've always noticed and hated about other like books and movies and stuff is like you have the hero who gets the ultimate ability to defeat the bad guy, and it's like this super insanely powerful ability which they win in that story, but then if you ever tell any other stories in that world again, what do you do with that character? Because it's
Mhm.
like now that they're that powerful, how can you keep them in the world and keep the world interesting without the other characters just turning to them and saying, well, they can fix it. They can do this really cool magic stuff. So I try to keep that in mind when I'm writing my magic system is I want to make sure that while I want them to do really cool things, I don't want it to be so catastrophic and so overtly powerful that that
Mhm.
now should be the answer to every problem.
Mm. Like using a hammer for, every single nail that you see.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, cool. So what's one magical artifact from your world that you wish existed in real life?
Actually, a tough question because the artifacts that I have, I only, as of right now, in book one, have one magic artifact that we are introduced to, and it's this little coin that's probably like the size of a quarter that um it's dark blue, and when you rub your finger on it and you pull your finger away, it creates tendrils of flames that will follow you.
Mhm.
So it's not like it's not super, again, it's not super powerful. It's not anything like super flashy or like, um, amazing or anything, but I just think that's so cool to like, you can basically just have fire in your pocket, like that's cool. Um, other non-magical items that I have, I would love to have Mune swords. So I like swords in general. I have a few. So that would be something that would be really cool to like do a custom order of or something one day is just to have her actual swords. Like that'd be so fun. Um, and one thing that I can say very vaguely, for book two, there's actually an item that I literally realized yesterday, June 4th, that I have in my possession that mimics an item from book two, and I'll show it on camera. I'm not gonna give any spoilers, but it's this really cool bracelet that I have that has a bone on it. And there's an object like this in book two that is very important to one of our characters that I didn't make the mental connection that I have this bracelet and I wrote about a bone bracelet at the same time, but this would be another one that I do have that I think would be really cool to that'd be really cool to share with other people as well.
How far along are you in this series?
So it's going to be a trilogy. Book one got released back on May 1st. Book two will be coming in August. And then book three will be hopefully early next year. So with book two, um, that I am currently early June. I am working on editing it, and I should have it ready to go for my advanced reader copies probably within the next couple of weeks. So hopefully by the time this video comes out, the readers will have their own copies and will be giving feedback on that. Um, as far as the third book, I am actively writing it right now. I'm about a quarter of the way through with it. So again, hopefully by the time this comes out, I will be much further along. And I'm not sure yet if I will have shared the title or not. That one I'm holding on to. I'm keeping in my back pocket. But I do have the titles and the cover art done for all three books. So
Great. And what is the one thing that you want readers to take away from your books?
fun. I want them to have an enjoyable experience and come on an adventure with me and hopefully come back for more adventures once I get those out the door and make them
Mhm.
available.
Great. And where can readers learn more about you and your work?
So I am active on Instagram. It's at J Olsen Thrift, and I have a website, jolsenthrift.com. On my website, I do have the little wiki articles available if you want to learn more about the world while I work on my world book. I also have links on where to buy the book on there. I'm on Amazon. I'm on bookshop.org if you want to use that to support your local bookstore. In the Georgia and Tennessee states, I am in a few independent bookstores. Um, and yeah, you can come hang out with me on my website, read up some stuff, come hang out with me on Instagram, see my cats and other silly posts I make about my books. And yeah,
Great. Well, it was so wonderful to have you here today and to chat with the audience. For more details on Jay Alson's book, please be sure to check out her website, jayalsonthrift.com. I will be posting the link in the description below. And to learn more about myself and the books that I'm writing, head on over to meloescape.com. Thank you so much for watching, and as always, happy hunting. Bye.